In 2008, the biggest change of my career happened. Oaklands was taken over by Oasis Community Learning. They won a bid, and I can remember at the council meeting feeling, oh, this has nothing to do with Oasis, but feeling how amateur the decision makers were and how little say we had in the future of our school. And it did feel like our school. Every school I'd worked at, I'd applied for and I wanted to work there. With Oasis, they were foisted upon me and us. And that must have been difficult for Oasis, and it was certainly very difficult for us. I can remember rumours and people were saying, oh, they won't allow this, they won't want that. OYT was going to go, and then they reversed that decision. And then when the head was appointed, I can remember him being toured around the school and overhearing by chance, one of the people saying, and of course we'll move this mosaic on the wall. And he said, no, you won't. Some really hard work has gone into that. I want to keep that. And I thought, brilliant. Here's a guy who has his own opinion, and he was actually valuing the work that the kids had done. And very much that was the kind of impression I got of him. And he seemed to like me, definitely. And I was offered a promotion. So I was given a higher status job and more money. And I was very happy and felt wanted. But we became branded. And I'd never come across this phrase in education before. We were branded. There's the Oasis logo. And that was the branding. And we became branded in that we had to suddenly look a certain way. What they call professional dress. Here I am in what they call professional dress. I felt I was like a stuffed turkey. But I'd never had buttons done up other than when I went to weddings. It was that kind of thing. The note that we had to wear ties came round the day before the first day of term in September. And I had to go out and get some. I literally didn't own them. I didn't argue about it purely because I was aware the kids at the school were also having to wear uniform. I never taught in a school I taught in a school with no uniform. I taught in schools with kind of vague uniforms, kind of school dress. But this was going to be blazers and stuff. And I felt if the kids are being made to do this, then I have to as well. So I dressed up and wore bright things. This sort of colour I'd never owned up until the point when Oasis came, so it was my attempt just to be a bit brighter, maybe. And the other thing is, in this letter that said about the ties thing, they suddenly said all of our teachers have to be addressed by their last name or sir or miss. For me, that was absolutely non-negotiable. And there was quite a heated debate between myself and the head. And on my part, bizarrely, there were tears. I became incredibly emotional about it. I couldn't imagine telling people who I'd known for 4 or 5 years, giving them a detention, for example, because they had to call me sir when I was Mark and they were John or James or whoever they were. I wanted an authentic relationship. I didn't want suddenly to become this distant teacher. And I think the senior leadership team couldn't really understand where I was coming from. And I always thought it was like a throwback to Stantonbury, but maybe it goes back even further than that. And I went to a boarding school when I was much younger, which was also a religious school. And bad things happened there, which have come out. And there's an episode on Panorama that you can see where I speak about it. And maybe it was a psychological kind of reaction to that. And I didn't want to become one of those gowned teachers, which I associated with abuse. And I didn't want to be that austere. And certainly wearing a tie didn't make me a better teacher. That is 100% for sure. And being called sir wouldn't and couldn't. And I couldn't cope with it. In the end, it was decided, they went along with it, and on a trial basis, and the trial was never extended. But it was very, very difficult for me, and very emotional for me. But I did remain as Mark till the end of my career, and that for me was crucially important. But it always seemed a little bit false because I knew that I was doing something that they didn't really like. I was dressed in a way that wasn't me, so I was becoming a little bit more inauthentic. And the other thing that started to happen, I'd never ever had this before, was we were treated by the senior leaderships as a failing school. We were referred to as failing. Our drama department, you can imagine, was super successful, internationally known for the work we were doing in the youth theatre and in the drama department itself. Our results were outstanding, but we were lumped in with this view of we are a failing school. And I started to have piles on of people coming in and observing or watching, micromanaging, in a way that my hero David Bowie would never have done. If he'd have had a good musician working with him, he wouldn't have said, and now play this like this. I was having people coming in, watching drama lessons, who hadn't taught drama before and were offering advice. Now, sometimes they can do a good job, but very often they were just offering negative comments in order to retain their job. And I found that really difficult to cope with, just the kind of philosophy of it. And there we are, that's it. And so there we are, I've got these review sheets where people came in to review. But the one nice thing that did happen, in one of the reviews, our head wrote a lovely thing about me, which was, his work adds a real sparkle to the academy. That's nice. So it certainly wasn't all bad, but the old days of the informal education that I wanted were gone from the whole school. I believe we retained it in drama to an extent, and we were certainly more informal than perhaps we were meant to be. And I think there was a niggling respect for what we were doing, and that was a niggling respect. But that said, with youth theatre, it ended up being some golden years. I didn't have to wear this. I dressed normally in jeans and an open neck shirt, and I was free to feel I could work as I wanted. So whilst during the days that I was there, because I was only part-time, I was there for 3 days a week, it felt not right. We got on with it, and I can remember real positive enthusiasm to try and make this thing work. I can remember in the first year, lots of late night phone calls between myself and particularly another member of staff, one of the PE teachers who was a deputy head, Billy Davis, coming up with plans and exciting things. And there was that. It did bring some really exciting possibilities, and they allowed really exciting things to happen, curriculum developments. And I was given an opportunity to work with different young people on elongated projects, which was very, very good. So I don't want to say it was all bad, but it wasn't great for me, apart from with youth theatre. And as you'll see in the next few episodes, for youth theatre, it led to absolute golden years.